Attention, attention. Are you a modern guitar player? Would you consider yourself a bedroom guitarist? And have you or have you not been on the tone journey to find the best and the most epic sounding guitar tone you've ever achieved in your life? Don't worry, I have been too. I am right there with you. But today I've got some information that may change the way you think about achieving your epic guitar tones. And it actually just might save you a lot of money. But what if I were to tell you that the biggest factor in determining your guitar tone may not be a brand new guitar simulator? It may not be that new featured pedal that comes with the next plugin, and that it's something that a lot of people tend to overlook. Well, keep your eyes and ears glued to this video because I'm about to show you something really awesome. The answer lies within something called impulse responses, or IRs for short. And these are typically what a lot of these amp simulator plugins actually use to simulate a speaker cabinet in a real life situation where you have an amplifier and the speaker that it plays through. IRs are a fancy, technologically advanced way of capturing the responsiveness of a specific cabinet and the way that it responds to an input. Don't ask me exactly how it works because it is far beyond my understanding, but they work. And dare I say, they play a much larger role in your guitar tone than your amplifiers might. So what I've got here pulled up is actually a small experiment just to showcase to you what I am talking about and how a lot of amplifiers, specifically for metal, tend to sound pretty close to the same, and the cabinets that you use actually matter more in the tone that you're able to achieve. So what I have pulled up right now is my FX chain in Reaper for a guitar track, and I've got Archetype Gojira X, Archetype Nolly, and the Soldano SLO100 plugin from Neural DSP all loaded up into this effects chain, and every single one of these plugins has the cabinet section turned off, because at the very end of this I have the Get Good Drums Studio Cali Cabs plugin installed with the Massive, which is basically a Mesa 4x12 mic'd up with an SM57 as the IR response. So essentially I am being able to run each of these plugins individually with the exact same cabinet, so you can hear how they all sound through the same cabinet. This will hopefully get you to understand that although they might have some slight variances because they are different amps, they tend to sound pretty close to the same. So here's the Archetype Gojira X on the default settings, running through that Studio Cali Cab with the default preset on this plugin. Now I've switched over to the Archetype Nolly. Same thing, cabinet section is turned off, it's running through the Studio Cabs, and it's on the default preset for this plugin. And lastly, I've got the Soldano SLO pulled up, cabinet section turned off, running through GGD Studio Cali Cabs, default setting, and this is what it sounds like. And now to really show you what I'm talking about, because some of the default presets with these amplifiers vary a little bit in terms of the settings on the amplifiers, I have dialed all of the knobs on all three of these amplifiers to noon. So they are all set to noon across the board, and this is what they sound like against each other. Again, slight variances, but pretty much the same sound. They basically simulate a very similar amplifier, and they don't vary much. The true way to vary your tone actually lies with the IRs and the cabinets, like I said. So with GGD Studio Cabs, this is Cali, they have Zilla and a couple other ones, you can actually run through a bunch of different cabinets with different microphones, and it'll give you a much wider variance of what you can get out of your guitar tone, changing these settings as opposed to trying to find some mystical settings on the amplifiers that I was showing earlier. So what you were hearing these on was basically the Massive setting on GGD here with the Massive cab, which is a Mesa 4x12 with an SM57. Now, I can go in here and change that to an up front, which is I think like a Fortin Cali cab or something. It sounds very different as opposed to the thick sounding one. Or we can go over to smooth. Or we can go over to detailed. Or we can go to guttural. And with that, we can actually change the microphones. So we can go to a C414. We can go to a KM184. M160. This one. This one. This one. Or the Fredman technique. And you can make any combination of those with just one setting here. But with the beauty of this actual plugin is that you can load up basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different cabinets on here if you want. So let's just load them all while we're at it, just for fun's sake. Why don't we? So we have all 6 of these cabs here, all loaded up with SM57s of some kind, and this is what they sound like all together. And it may be pretty bad, I don't know. Now I've gone through and given each of these different cabinets a different microphone. This basically simulates your guitar signal running through all these different cabinets mic'd up with all of these different microphones. And even then, you can go below and do different blends of the sounds in the microphones that are being played on these different cabinets. You can dial them from a darker sound to a brighter sound, pan them differently. It's an amazing plugin. Now, is there a practical use to doing it all out like this? Maybe not necessarily, but what I'm trying to show you is that these have a much higher impact on the guitar tone that you can achieve compared to actually just changing the settings on your amplifier. You go from playing a massive setting to a guttural setting, and there's a very big difference in the way that sounds with the same exact amplifier. Now, I know what some of you are going to say, oh, I don't want to buy another plugin. Why do I want to buy the GGD plugin with all the IRs in the cabinet section? Well, one, you're crazy if you don't want them because they are very, very good and very, very useful. But two, I understand. So if you already own some type of amplifier plugin like the stuff from Neural DSP, they have IRs built into it. That's what the cabinet section is. So you have the cabinet section here, which also comes with different microphones and stuff, essentially changing the IRs built in to the plugin itself. Essentially, what all these different microphones are basically different IRs. So here's the default setting with a dynamic 57 and a condenser 414, and this is what it sounds like. But if I change one of these microphones to a Ribbon 121 with a condenser 414, you get a very different sound, and I didn't change a single thing on the amplifier. Let's change the other microphone. Now we got a Ribbon and a condenser. Very different sound yet again. You can actually go in and change the distance of the microphones to the cabinets or move them around on the interface right here. Let's move these into a completely different area that we had them from before. Now what does this sound like? Very different. Let's move them again, huh? Let's move them this way. Let's hear what that sounds like. Different yet again. And then let's change the microphone again to a different combination here, and let's move them in very weird spots. And this is what they sound like. Very, very different tones. And you can do this with any Neural DSP plugin. You don't have to buy the extra GGD setup. I just like to use that because it gives me enough variance. But you could also go into your plugins and give enough wide range of sounds within the plugin itself. It's built into there. You have all these microphone choices. You have 3 cabinets in this specific Gojira X plugin, so you can use the different cabinets with this with different microphones and get completely different sounds. For instance, let's listen to the different cabinets that are just built into Gojira X. I'm running with the Dynamic 57 and a Ribbon 160. The matching cab, and then let's go over to the left and get that middle cab. And then let's go to the very, very far left cab. They are very different tones because they are different sets of speakers, different cabinets that have different resonance, they're made of different materials, so they sound much more different from each other as opposed to the amplifiers in the very beginning of this video. So there are 2 ways right there that you can change your tone immensely. You can either use the IRs that are built in to the plugin with whatever one you're using, or you can actually turn off the cabinet section and go even further and spend maybe a little more money and be able to have a little more customizability and adaptability and get something like the GGD Cali cabs or Zilla cabs or something like that. Or you could even go buy IR packs that some people sell, some companies sell, and you would essentially load them in to your cabinet section of your plugin right here. It says custom IR, you load it in, you pick the files of the IRs that you downloaded, and it essentially gives you even different versions of what we're doing here in the plugin. So if you're on your tonal journey, just keep this in mind. I'm not saying this is the only thing that's going to get you a very different sound than everybody else, but is one of the factors that I've started to realize more and more over time has much more of an impact on my guitar tone than the next amplifier, because Neuro DSP just released a new plugin. I have to get it because it's going to give me an awesome new sound. You don't necessarily have to do that. As long as you put in a little work yourself, you can mess with the IRs with the speaker cap section, or completely turn it off and use a separate plugin, separate IRs, whatever you want to do. The IRs are going to give you a wider variance of tone, so you can find your own signature tone to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Who knows? You might find the next greatest sounding tone. We're all on our tonal journey, I understand. I still am. I still have to find things and tweak things, and I'm never probably going to be happy with the tones that I have, and it's just going to be ever changing, and unfortunately it's probably going to be the same for you. But if it's not, I am so glad that you found something that you really enjoy. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you right here very quickly in a small form section here, but if there's some type of thing that I've gone over in this and glanced over that you want me to dive into in more detail in a separate video, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, watch the videos that are on your screen, and I'll see you in the next video with some awesome new tones.